Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, September 8th. Before we get into today's play, a quick recap of what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, we ended up suffering a massive blowout loss in humiliating fashion as we ended up giving out Navy on the money line at plus 100 on Fox Bet. And I'm pretty sure BYU is still scoring at this point as they ended up losing by, I don't remember what it was, 52, I think. Yeah, it wasn't even close. And Navy, who was 7-1 in their last 8 home openers, suffered their biggest loss since 2001. BYU was great. They were missing all those wide receivers from last year. Their star tight end didn't matter. They ran the ball down Navy's throats, and they dominated the line of scrimmage en route to an easy win. So we got a loss there. We're going to be looking for a bounce-back winner here on Tuesday now. Full disclosure, not really a big fan of anything on today's card, but the NFL season is going to be upon us in a couple of days. And for that reason, I'm going to be giving out a future in the NFL that I think possesses a ton of value. And we're going to be talking about that right now. And it will be on a team total on a team in the AFC. And the play of the day is going to be on the Jacksonville Jaguars under 4.5 wins, which is available on FanDuel at minus 120, a time recording of 12:20 p.m. Eastern time. Now, a couple reasons why I like the Jaguars under here. First of all, according to pretty much all projections and even just some betting odds, Jacksonville is going to have the worst record in the league. Or at least they should. They're a huge favorite to have the worst record in the league. And it makes perfect sense why. Jacksonville made a ton of moves in the offseason, all of which seems to indicate they are going to be tanking for Trevor Lawrence, and I think that will be the case. If you want to break down all the moves that they made during the course of the offseason, first of all, they ended up firing their offensive coordinator. They replaced him with Jay Gruden. Going through all the moves, they ended up trading a bunch of key pieces, looking at who they got rid of. They got rid of Campbell. They got rid of Boye. They also ended up getting rid of Fournette a couple of days ago. They got rid of a ton of pieces, and this team is going to be really, really bad. Now, going through some of the actual active roster pieces for this team. I'll go through the depth chart in itself. You got Minshew at quarterback, of course, who was, I'd say, surprisingly good in his first year, kind of fell apart in the second half. Kind of curious if he's going to be able to keep it together. The receiving core I'm actually a fan of. They got Chark, Connolly, they got Chenault, who's always injured as a rookie, but he's still pretty good. And, yeah, that's basically the receiving core, and D.D. Westbrook, which is fine. The running back is James Robinson. After they end up getting rid of Fournette, they have no running game to speak of whatsoever. The receiving core is decent. Breaking down the offensive line, though, really not good. If you want to talk about everybody involved, you got Cam Robinson at the left tackle spot. You got Norwell at left guard, who's mediocre at best. Lindare, who's okay at center. You got Khan at right guard, not great. Jawan Taylor is okay at tackle. So they're really not a great offensive line. So the offense for the Jaguars, easily one of the worst offenses in the league. Minshew's an okay quarterback. The receiving core is okay. The offensive line is kind of a joke, and the running back situation there with Robinson as the starter, Ozigbo as the backup, and Chris Thompson, the longtime pass-catching PPR fantasy god, is going to be their third down running back who most likely will get injured again. So that's not ideal after their original projected starting running back in Raquel Armstead is out indefinitely. So that's also not great for the Jaguars. Moving into the defense, the main reasons why this team's going to be taking a huge step back. This defense is terrible. Now, Josh Allen, very good defensive lineman, as they ended up taking him from Kentucky a couple years ago. He's pretty good. They drafted Chiazon, who could be decent as well. You got Avery Jones as your defensive tackle, not great. Taven Bryant, not great either, but they did sign Tim Jernigan, who's okay. Other defensive end, you got Adam Gotsis. Nobody really knows who he is. Miles Jack is pretty good. He's injured a decent amount of the time, though. Joe Sherbert's pretty good. Leon Jacobs, okay. Cornerback, they ended up losing Boye. They ended up replacing him with C.J. Henderson as a rookie, who is a pretty solid cover guy, one of the worst tackling corners in the entire league. So I don't know how he's going to do. You got Josh Jones at safety, not really that great. Gerard Wilson, not great either as your free safety, and your other corner is Trey Herndon. So the Jaguars offensively, one of the worst units in the league. Defensively, easily one of the worst units in the league. The team's going to be terrible. And if you really want to break it down, the one thing you have to ask yourself for a win total of 4.5 is how many games are they going to be favored in? Are there a decent amount of spots where they actually will be able to overperform? And the answer is no. If you want to break down the entire schedule here, which I'll do briefly, Week 1 against the Colts, underdogs. Week 2 against the Titans, underdogs. Week 3 at home against Miami, probably underdogs. Week 4 at Cincinnati, since in Cincinnati, probably underdogs. Week 5 at Houston, underdogs. Week 6 at home against Detroit, probably underdogs. Week 7, bye. Week 8 at Chargers, probably underdogs. Week 9 at home against Houston, underdogs. Week 10 on the road against Green Bay, underdogs, home against Pittsburgh, underdog, week 12 against Cleveland, underdog, week 13 on the road against Minnesota, underdog, week 14 against Tennessee, underdog, week 15 against Baltimore, underdog, week 16 against Chicago, underdog, week 17 at Indianapolis, underdogs. Now, you can argue maybe against Miami they'll be a favorite. Week 3, maybe at home. Maybe Detroit, probably not at home. Week 6, Cincinnati on the road, I can guarantee they will be underdogs because they will be in Cincinnati. So I think that will lead to Cincinnati being maybe a 2 or 3 point favorite there. But best case scenario, they're favorites in maybe 2 games out of the entire year. Their win total's 4.5. This team is going to win maybe 2 games. Now, you can talk about teams that are tanking in the past, like Miami, and how they were tanking for the bulk of the season last year, and they ended up going on a surge with Fitzpatrick, going with Devontae Parker, etc. But you also got to compare the coaching staffs here, and I think Flores is a tremendous coach. I think Flores is going to be a very solid coach for years to come, and you're comparing him to Doug Marrone, who probably should have been fired about 3 years ago. So I'm not a fan of the coaching staff with Jacksonville. I think the team itself is terrible. Jacksonville should finish with the worst record in the league. You can tell that they're tanking, and I think they'll be a lot more successful with tanking than Miami last year. So for that reason, the play of the day here for Tuesday, September 8th is going to be on the future, and it is on the Jaguars team total, the win total, I should say, under 4.5 wins, which is available on FanDuel at -120. That's the installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, September 8th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.